All
By the way,
right.
I've got my irritable bow hat on, supporting my boy Whitley. You ever been there, downtown Auburn?
I haven't.
So
And it took me a second to realize what you were saying. I was about to say, "Hey, man, we're live. You want to talk about that? Like after we get done, maybe." No, I have
it's so
not been
good.
there. What kind of? I mean, what's the cuisine?
Bao,
Which is
which is like I don't know, it's like a Chinese type dish. It's a lot of they wrap it in kind of a dough. There's a lot of you can do different things, basically wrapped in a dough and kind of bundled up. So like it's sort of there's the dough and there's whatever shrimp or there's meat or there's chicken inside or whatever. And then they do some different
okay.
Then they do some different, like they do bowls. So you could get without the doughy, without the bao, you could do like a bowl of, whatever, chicken and rice. I mean, there's some different bowls and stuff they do, but it's just good. It's different. It's unique. And
So
then
it's
this hat is actually they just opened up for anybody that loves going to Seacrest 30A, they just opened up a new restaurant. It's called Drome, Drome, but it's the same stuff. It's the same food, but they have cocktails and stuff. They just opened one up in the Seacrest area. It's like, for anybody that goes on that 30A, it's I can't remember where it's like, it's past Rosemary, it's past Alice Beach, it's down there where like there's that big horseshoe and there's food trucks. It's a really popular area, like right there at the beach, but they just opened up a restaurant there. So if anybody's ever at the beach and sees a place called Drome, Drome, that is Whitley and the Irritable Bow guys that have the restaurant in downtown Auburn. It's the same people. So you'd be
it's kind
supporting
of like the Asian version of a pot pie, in a way.
I guess. Yeah, sort of. It's
Okay.
yeah. It's good. They're always really busy at lunch, and it's it's not super heavy. It's different.
Yeah. I like to drive through 30A and try to guess how much money people have at each house.
People what? How much what?
I'll go, that guy, he makes millions. That guy probably makes billions.
Well, what's crazy about them opening that restaurant, and so like there's a group of people that are in charge of all those businesses, and they get to dictate. Like it's such a high, it's such an area where people want to be a part of and start businesses that the group that runs the businesses down there they pick and choose.
Yeah.
So they get to go. They have just hundreds and hundreds of applicants that pour in of people that want to start a business there, and then they get to choose. They're essentially like, they get to choose. Oh, this is probably the best one that fits our place or whatever. And so it's it's pretty in demand, but it's pretty cool. So anyway, if anybody goes down to that area and they see a restaurant, Drome, Drome, that is Irritable Bow. That's Auburn people. So support them. Go tell them that maybe you heard about them at Auburn Live, whatever. I just gave them a free pub because we're friends. I'm wearing the hat.
Oh, wait a minute. Let's see here.
What you got?
Did I miss something? Oh, Hayes Fawcett with the Auburn. Hayes Fawcett has dropped an Auburn teaser.
Well, what do you got? You got Wilkes. You guys are high on. You got the RPM prediction from Jeffrey the other day about the Florida linebacker.
We got Wilkes. Definitely a good option there. And this is in the chat, Matty Dubs, if you want to throw him up, Zach, on there, that pointed that out to me. I was not looking. I was actually rushing to get here. You like Arby's? Justin, I had Arby's for lunch. It's very.
I haven't eaten Arby's since middle school.
Don't sleep on it.
I had enough of it in middle school that it served me for life. I was like, I think I'm done. I think I've had enough.
I think you should try it again. I think you should. Yeah. So, Goon, Justin, we're calling him Goon. That's what he goes by. Adam Balagoon Ali. That's the guy. I'd watch for that one. Don't forget, you have a commitment coming up on June 29th from Claude Puma. I want to say, I think when Hayes drops these, it's not necessarily like that day. Sometimes it's like he's gotten a request from a guy to do it on a certain day, so he goes and drops it. Maybe it is. Maybe there's something to watch for today. We'll see. But I think this goes back to what we said on the last show, Justin. The money is not gone. Auburn has it. you can walk around tailgates during the season and smell money. It's there. Okay. I don't think there's a problem.
There was a problem. There has been a problem.
There is, but it's not something that's washed up.
No. There's a difference between there has been a problem and there will be a problem. There have been issues. Doesn't mean that in 2 months those issues can't be resolved and they could be making up ground. Those are different. We're not saying there's going to be issues until December. We're saying there have been issues.
That's the part that people don't understand. I think, Justin, after reading more and more since we had our last show, trying to understand what people perceive is the problem. I think, they think that Auburn's just broke, and that's not the case at all.
No, that's not the case.
The investments, I made a point to use the word investment a lot this week when talking about recruiting. Investment. I don't think Auburn invests here. I think Auburn will invest here. All right, so I think Auburn is going to invest in some commitments, and they're going to get some before the season starts, and they're going to be important targets. And I think there's going to be some that they're going to take a shot on because they know it's worth doing right now. Nico Heppy, who Auburn just got. Take a shot on that guy.
Yeah.
You saw that, Justin. 6'7", 350. I think you made a tweet where you're like, that's a good place to start if you're an offensive lineman.
Start. Yeah. Yeah. I would look harder at somebody who is 6'7", 350 and be like, you can't develop that quite. You can't really develop that.
Well, how many offensive linemen out there are not projects?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. The 5 stars?
Yeah, very few.
Pretty much. The 5 stars are the non-projects. Everybody else is, you might have a ways to go with them. It takes a minute. Why not take a shot on a guy with 6'7", 350 athleticism, played rugby? Makes sense to me. But that's interesting that Hayes dropped that right as we're starting this. So I guess we need to be on alert. I definitely was going to be on alert. I know Jeffrey is. And Caleb Jones from Rivals, who's joining up with us here soon. So,
what?
Yeah.
Who let them in?
You mean Caleb, JG, Brian Matthews, those guys?
Who let Rivals in here? I'm just kidding. Hayden. So Hayden Harris in the chat said there's a difference. Where did it go? Between broke and unwilling. Right. True.
Right,
there's been some unwillingness. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I said. I told somebody yesterday, it said broke. I go, listen, you guys we've got to be more critical thinkers. There is nuance. They're not there. You can't go, they're broke or they're not broke. That type of stuff. I get it's sort of rhetoric for people to have fun with posting, but they're not either. They're not broke and they're not broke. Like it's really neither of those things. There's always nuance to these conversations, but it's a message board and people go, we're broke. We're not broke. It's like that's not really. It's a very simplistic way to try to describe something there's a lot going on.
Well, the very unfortunate thing about our society now, Justin, and I don't want to get too deep, but when this all started, when the whole internet thing and tweeting and here's my thought bubble, I'm going to put it out to the world, started, it was kind of a joke to say, well, you don't say that, so you're not endorsing it. Or if you're saying that Auburn's having money trouble, they're broke. It's like they take every little thing you say and leap forward with it so far. It takes it so completely out of context that it's like that's not how that works, bud.
Yeah.
How did this happen in our society? Where did we pick that up? Where if you don't say one thing, it has to be true or untrue. Whatever is not said is what we're going to hang on. It's so strange. I make so many posts where people find this angle that I've never even considered. I'm like, how did you even?
It's the problem with message boards. Like message boards are awesome. It's a community. We love it. It's fun. It's fun to be a part of. But the biggest issue, and it's even worse now with social media, is that we can have a conversation. We can go for an hour and we can have a long form conversation where I've actually got time to give you a full thought with nuance. That is really, really hard to do on a message board. Like even if I sat there and wrote you 5 paragraphs, it's still, somebody could find one word and go, well, did you mean this? And then immediately it's off the rails again. And so it's difficult sometimes to have, nuanced and detailed conversations on the board, because somebody could read it the wrong way and they don't maybe know your tone, or there's a lot of ways for it to go wrong. What are we talking about today? Football recruiting. Let's answer tons of questions. I can talk basketball a little bit.
I will be honest. I don't want to fund it. I just don't.
You don't want to what? You cut out what?
I don't want to be redundant about what we talked about on the last show.
I think people got questions. Let's answer them.
Yeah, for sure. But I think we've said everything we can on that. And, it's going to sound like the same show again. We'll take questions. If that's the question, we'll talk about it. But, I mean,
the only thing I would add is, and the only thing I would add that I answered this morning, I missed a thread. Somebody posted a thread, and I got to it this morning. That I think it's an important clarification, I guess, or addition to what we've talked about. And I wrote, there's a thread that has my name, and it says something about difference of opinion. Go to that thread and read my response to the original question, which is, there are two things at play. You and I talked about it offline yesterday. There's two things at play here, and they're not combating with each other. They're both happening. There's everything Jeffrey talked about. There's the story with CD Morgan. There are hesitations when it comes to NIL about what exactly will rev share look like. What exactly can we tell kids to expect in December and when they arrive at Auburn? There's that aspect that, yes, people at Auburn, administrators, are being cautious in that regard. They are being cautious in, hey, let's not overpromise to prospects. We don't know exactly what we could tell them to expect come December when they arrive. So there's caution from administrators in terms of what the rev share will look like. And that's okay. That's their job. Their job is to protect Auburn, play by the rules, and to do that, right? That's their job. The coach's job is to get talent and win. That's their job. And so is there a little frustration from the coaches in that regard? Well, sure. But that's okay too, because they're like, I need talent. It's two people trying to accomplish the same goal, but you've got different responsibilities. So you've got that sort of the official NIL thing going on, where there's some hesitations going on about what exactly can we promise come December? What if a guy goes, hey, what can I expect when I arrive? The answer right now is kind of, we're not exactly sure. It's going to be good, but give us time to sort of figure that out. There's that. And then at the same time, there's what I talked about, which is the behind the scenes, what I call the behind the scenes recruiting apparatus, which let's not be naive. Let's not talk about it like everybody's doing it. That's what gets you commitments right now.
That'd be a great band name. Like if you put a band together, the behind the scenes recruiting apparatus.
Yeah, little red, like reminds you of red jumpsuit apparatus from back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
There's that going on. That type of stuff gets you commitments right now. And so because that's hit the skids a little bit, and you have some caution on what to tell kids to expect in December, those two things are going on at the same time, and it's caused hiccups. So both those things are true. Auburn I think there's optimism about what can happen as the fall goes on. Gotta win. But I do think it's important to talk about some of the reasons why there have been hiccups.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean they're going to be hiccups. It doesn't mean Auburn can't turn it around. It does mean they're in a little bit of a hole. There's no denying that. They got to dig out of a hole now.
Well, listen, a lot of people are kind of moving past that part, Justin, where they're going, okay, yeah, Auburn's got problems.
Yeah.
Why does nobody else have them? That's the biggest retort I get to this. And I think probably the most clear answer is that, like at Ohio State, when Ryan Day or whoever goes to the money people at Ohio State and says they want something, they have blind faith that they'll get it done. Why wouldn't they? What have they done to prove them wrong in that? All right, when it comes to Auburn, it goes way beyond Freeze. It goes back to Harsin. It goes back to Gus Malzahn. you're asking people who dole out their money, their hard-earned money, by the way. You heard what Charles Barkley said about it.
Yeah.
He don't want to give his money for that. And that's not his situation is a little different. He's just being blunt. But the people who care and the people who want to dole out their hard-earned money don't have blind faith that things are going to be okay when they invest. It goes back to that word to me every single time. Invest, 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 invest. That's the world we live in now in college football. How much are you willing to invest? If you're asking someone else to help you invest, are they willing? It matters. It absolutely matters in recruiting. That's why you're having the issues you're having right now. But as you can see by Hayes Fawcett's tweet, they're going to invest in some guys. That's not going anywhere.
And I would also add that every school's approaching the rev share stuff. Everybody's approaching it a little bit different. Everybody's in the same boat in that there's uncertainty. Nobody knows exactly how NIL Go and the clearinghouse is going to work. Nobody knows exactly what can they work around that somehow. I've talked to people. There are thoughts in Auburn's administration, like people that are in charge of looking at rev share and the impacts of that. There's people that think that there's some pretty big deals that you might be able to put together without going through NIL Go, where it's $600. NIL Go is $600. Anything more than that, it goes to the clearinghouse. But there's just a lot of unknowns. So everybody's dealing with some uncertainty, but at the same time, every program's approaching it a little different too. There are schools and programs that either they're more confident about what they think will happen, and so because of that, they're making promises of what to expect in December, if that makes sense. They feel a lot more confident about what it's going to look like, and they're making promises versus a school like Auburn that's like, let's be a little bit more cautious. So, I mean, that's happening as well when you talk about why aren't other schools dealing with the same thing in terms of the official sort of NIL direction that's going on. Not everybody's dealing with a little bit of uncertainty, but not everybody's approaching it the same way. And some schools are, like I said, making big promises, and some are being more cautious, which I think Auburn is. And again, along with that is the behind the scenes apparatus that has faltered as well recently. And that's cost Auburn a few commitments and a few guys as well. So there's two things happening at once. You want me to ask, are we doing basketball? What are we doing? You want me to answer this question? I've seen it popped up a couple times.
Jump around. Like Wisconsin. Just do it.
Basketball question. If the guys gel quicker than we expect, is Auburn a top 10 team? Oh, yeah. And do you see them going back to back? Oh, like back to back regular season champs? I wouldn't predict that. I mean, Kentucky's going to be better. They're pretty loaded. Arkansas's got a ton of talent. Florida's got a ton of talent. So it'd be hard to predict Auburn. I think entering the season, if I had to guess like really early preseason, I would say Florida, Kentucky will be ahead of Auburn in the preseason predictions for the SEC. Maybe Arkansas. There's a lot of talent coming in there. But some of it's freshmen. I'm not sure. I could see Auburn being picked third, Alabama. But I don't know. Back-to-back would be tough. They do have to do a lot of coming together. There's some talent there. I mean, they're capable of being a top 10-ish team. Tahad Pettiford, he's just an absolute difference maker. But there's just a lot of pieces that still have to come together. I will say, and I hope to have a basketball insider here in the coming days to try to give people a little bit of what's going on at practice. I will say, I went to practice this week. This has been the first week Tahad Pettiford's been back. He has not been there like the first 2 to 3 weeks. I can't remember how long they've gone. Probably 3 weeks, because he ended all the draft stuff, and then he went back home and has been training. They gave him a little bit of time off and said, you do not need to show up first day of camp. Like he went season to training for the combine. So he got a little bit of a break, but this is his first week back. I mean, it's amazing how different everything looks. What the team looks like when he's leading the charge, the intensity of practice. he's just that guy, man. He is that guy that changes the dynamic to Todd Bedford, not just his ability, but he's a leader. He's a competitor. The other teammates like are excited to play with him. Like it was watching them without Tahad and then with Tahad at practice. You can tell everybody else is sort of elevated. Like, all right, Hod's out here. Let's go. Like it just felt different this week. And so it was kind of cool to sort of watch that come together a little bit.
Justin, I'm sharing my screen here. I wanted to show this. I just wanted you to know she's got hops, man.
Yeah. Look at her.
That's awesome.
Look at her. She goes with me to a bunch of practices. I mean, she's been to a ton. And last year we went, and I didn't even tell her. Like she was like, I think I might have said like number 0 is pretty good, and she just boom, number 0. Number 0 is her guy, and now she knows Pettiford. She knows it's Pettiford. And so we were at. That's yeah.
She's just drawn to him, right? Like he's the guy.
She liked 0, and then I was like, that's Pettiford. He's really good. And so then that's the player, Pettiford. She likes Pettiford. And so we were at practice, and it ended, and we were sitting there watching, and Bruce came over to chat with me, and I looked at her. I said, tell him. She was like, it's my birthday. Her birthday was yesterday. And Bruce BP was like, he was excited. He was like, who's your favorite player? She was like, Pettiford. He goes, I got you. Bruce walks over. He walks over. They're stretching at this point. They're done with practice. He walks over to the group and he tells Tahad and a couple of the guys, you saw Simon Walker and you saw Sebastian Williams-Adams were also in that, giving her a high five.
Yeah.
But he tells Tahad, hey, when you get done stretching, like it's that girl's birthday. Go say happy birthday, get a picture. So Bruce hooked it up and she came over, and
that's awesome.
Yeah. I told Hod, I said, glad to have you back, man. He said, I'm glad to be back.
Good deal. So Henderson Harjick wants to know, with Auburn switching to Nike, does that help with NIL at all? I don't know, man. I don't know how that works, that part. I've always heard like Under Armour gives Maryland a boost, and I've heard that Nike gives Oregon a boost when it comes to recruiting, but I've never like seen it, how it works. I guess they give money. Is that considered like a booster?
Well, I don't, off the top of my head, I don't really know. I don't really know how Auburn being with Nike is going to help. I don't know all the financials of the deal with Nike and what that plugs into the athletic department, and would any of that factor into rev share? I don't know that. I don't know that answer. I don't really think, from a practical standpoint, having Nike is going to help you with an NIL package. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that unless there's some detail I'm missing. I don't really. I mean, rev share is rev share. There's a cap on it. There's only, this year it's $20.5 million, which is really $18.5, as I've said. So everybody's kind of working off that number, and then it'll go up a little bit next couple of years. So I don't know about that. Maybe it'll help with some allure, but even that, it's these days. I don't think Nike, I don't think Auburn's going to get a kid because they're Nike instead of Under Armour in football. Not with NIL. Like there's just too much other stuff to care about. Like
I don't see that either.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a question on the board that's in a similar realm. JZG0136 asks, when do we get to see the new unis?
Well, they're going to be like the old
I bet they'll be navy blue.
I get it. Everybody's excited about it. I'm like, I'm less, because it's just Nike. I mean, the fan apparel, there could maybe be some really cool fan apparel stuff, maybe some cool shoes that come out that get people excited. That when it comes to jerseys, football jerseys are going to be the football jerseys. I mean, they're not going to change that. Maybe basketball. Maybe Nike wants to say let's do a tweak to basketball and get people. Maybe you tweak basketball because that's changed a little bit. But football, it's going to be football. I mean,
it should be the same. I mean, you're still gonna have everything the same as far as the design of the jersey and the uniform, the tiger stripe down the pants, all that. Still says Auburn. Well, it might look different. It might look a little more, I don't know, sleek. like the material of the jersey might be different, which
The way it's put together.
we've seen over the years. Like you remember when they had the Russell? I think it was Russell, right?
Oh, that was back to 04, 05. 05 was the last year they had Russell.
I mean, I think all the material for the uniforms has changed with the times, pretty much with every company. So it may not be any different.
And I do agree. Like you look at Nike football uniforms, they do look better. They do look more well put together. I mean, like they just like the way they're designed, they do look. Maybe you have a slight change. Maybe the font, maybe the name font is different. I'd have never loved the Under Armour nameplate, like that lettering. Maybe you tweak that to something that's, I don't know, a little bit different. But
I don't want to badmouth Under Armour. I don't think I am by saying this. I always loved Under Armour coming up. Like it became really popular when I was playing football coming up through school. And having like an Under Armour undershirt was like the coolest thing to me. I loved walking around the locker room, like, and I had Pinkston on the back, you know. So I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And then I got some Under Armour cleats my junior year, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm faster, like everything's better. And in the third game of the season, they just the entire bottom of my cleat comes off.
yeah.
Where my sock is on the grass. I want you to picture that in the middle of a play. Thankfully, we had spare cleats on the sideline. They were Nike. Nike, just like the generic Nike. I put those on. I wore those cleats for the rest of my junior year, all the way through senior year, and when I started in college, started playing there. Cleats that we had were spares on the sideline. They were Nike cleats. I don't know if it was just a bad pair that I had, but my experience with Under Armour cleats is not good.
Well, for people that remember, Auburn went to Under Armour in 2006, and for at least the first season or two, the cleats were so bad that Auburn wore New Balance cleats, but they taped them. They taped them so that you would cover the end. But the cleats were so bad when they first were launching and first doing that deal with Auburn that Auburn had some tried them out and everybody hated them. So they wore New Balance cleats for at least a season or two before Under Armour could kind of get their stuff together on the cleat side of things.
Gracious. All right. Jedrick, I think is how you say his name. Jederick, maybe. Football question. Could you both see the defensive line being top 5 in the SEC?
That's a hard question because I'll be honest, I haven't done a deep dive into every defensive line. So it's sort of hard for me to answer that question, knowing only really Auburn's. I would
be surprised if last year I'm walking through each game. I'm in the Kentucky game right now. I'm rewatching every single snap. And Auburn's, to that point, at least, Auburn's defensive front was stingy, very stingy against the run. I mean, they didn't give up much. They closed it down. Like I said, Keldrick Falk had a bigger impact than I realized. Bobby Travis shows up a lot more than I realized. Philip Bleedy had a good season quietly. So maybe in terms of run defense, I think they could be in there, top 5. Pass rush, there's some good pass rushers out in the SEC.
Yeah, probably less.
I think
sure about that.
I think South Carolina's got the best pass rush defense out there.
Yeah, I mean, Keldrick Falk is good enough to elevate you as a group. How good is Kerryon Crawford going to be? Does he become just an all-around stud? Does Bobby Travis take a step forward? So I don't know. That's a hard one. Top 5 is a hard one. That's top 5 defensive line in the SEC, and you're pretty close to elite. I mean, if you're top 4 or 5 in the league in a position group in the SEC, then you're top basically 12 to 13 in the country. I mean, so I don't know. I don't know if I could answer that. Like my gut would say no until I see more.
You can't answer it as a fact, obviously, but where do you see them having a chance to be that good, or is that completely out of the question?
I don't think it's completely out of the question. I talked to somebody. I talked to some sources, and the question was asked, "Can you stop the run?" And the answer I got from the people in Auburn was, "Yes, we think we could stop the run."
Film says you can. Film absolutely says you can.
You know, they think they've got what it takes to stop. Now, of course, linebacker, that's interesting because that's part of that. It's It's part of that equation, and we're kind of a little unsure about linebacker. But as opposed to just talking about the defensive line, they think that the bodies and the ability is there to be competitive and stop the run. So, like if somebody like Crawford comes along and can get off the edge, if a Morris Williams takes a step off the edge, then you start to get a little bit of pass rush threat there. But yeah, they got the ability. I think they got some good bodies. It's just a lot of unknown what that front seven exactly looks like. I don't think we would say the talent isn't potentially there, and I think they've got some good bodies. It's just a lot of stuff we haven't seen. I'm Missouri. My default is sort of show me.
Yeah,
to some degree.
All right, Mike Brown wants to know, who is this year's DeMarcus Riddick? A talented freshman the staff cannot help but find a role for.
We answered that before. What Melendez came up?
Well, here's the thing. I think Melendez has a very defined role. I think he's the Mike linebacker. So I think this question is more like they're going to find a way.
Force somebody on the field. Sam Turner? I mean,
Bryce Diaz is the first one that comes to mind for me.
Fagans? I mean, Fagans is going to.
He's going to be a safety. I mean, I think he's the starting safety before it's over.
Yeah. So more like what? More D's or Turner? More somebody that's not going to start, but you're like, golly, but we got to get him out there somehow.
Yeah, I think the question is more like, okay, Riddick, he didn't play the first 5 games until they said, well, we're going against a rushing quarterback. Let's find a way to put him out there. He's going to make plays.
Yeah.
They put him out there for the Oklahoma game. He goes crazy, right?
Yeah.
In a role that is totally specific. He's not playing Mike. He's not playing Will. He's a spy. He's out there on passing downs. He's out there, just in a small role that they worked on that week. It's not like he was playing traditional linebacker. I think Bryce Diaz is the guy. I hear so much about him, Justin. Like, his name comes up first a lot.
Yeah.
And then you see him walking around and you go, ain't no way that guy just flew under the radar. He's a legit 6'2". He's like 215 pounds at this point, and he's running a 4.5. That's what he ran at camp at Auburn.
Was he not one of the was he the camp stood out immediately, offered, got to get him on board?
So the story of Bryce Diaz is a great one, and I think it's going to turn out to be a topic this year because he's going to play. I'm very positive. I'm pretty positive about that.
Yeah.
Coaches talk about him too much. Insiders talk about him too much. So Blake Woodby, Blake Woodby.
Yeah.
St. Francis guy. At the time, he was not committed to Auburn, but he was trending that way heavily. And I love Blake because he didn't care. He told us 3 weeks before he was going to Auburn, and it was like, I'll put it out there if y'all could just hold it before I make an announcement. But hey, I mean, it's done. He didn't play the games. He was very honest and open about how he was going to go about it. Well, he pops up in camp season. He didn't need to camp. I mean, he's already in. Those guys don't camp. They've already been evaluated, and coaches know what they are. He brings Bryce Diaz, and he's walking around with him, and we're like, who's this guy? And he goes, it's Bryce. He's coming to camp today for the coaches. Well, I brought him down, is what he said to us. Okay. He looks the part. We'll see what happens. He goes and runs a 4.5. He's 6'2", 210. They're like, shoot, we got to offer this guy. They offered him on the spot. He committed about a week later. It's a great story. He was a nobody, technically. He had like Notre Dame. He had visited there, and I don't think they'd offered, but he didn't have any big offers at the time.
I'm laughing at I missed Hayden's comment earlier when we were talking about Hayes Fawcett's tweet, and Hayden said, I think it just means Hugh made an eagle.
Which, before we get to Becca's question here, there is a question on the board about that. Do you want it or no?
What is it? Yeah, I want it. Let's go.
AU Samurai. He wants to know, how big of an issue is Hugh's golfing habit with the people that matter, with the current state of everything going on in his program?
It's an issue. I mean, it will become less of an issue If he wins, it will become even more of an issue if he doesn't.
Yeah.
But it's an issue now in that the people that matter, people in John Cohen and people in his office, are keenly aware of the amount of golf Hugh Freeze plays. And I say that in a way that they are aware and they don't love it. Now, win and do whatever you want, I guess. But winning hasn't happened yet. So they're aware and they don't love it. I'll also say that the people that, there are certainly donors that matter that are aware of it as well, and they don't like it either. They don't love it. Not just a lot of it is optics, right? Like I said, if you play golf and you're winning 10 games a year, well, then does it really matter? So a lot of it's optics. It's not necessarily that because he's playing golf, Auburn lost games. It's not that necessarily. We don't really know the answer. You couldn't answer that. You don't really exactly know. It's more the optics of it. And so is it an issue? Yes, the answer is it's an issue. We joke about it. Nail.com wrote that story about it where he's already played however many rounds of golf this month, which, by the way, I laughed out loud at that story. I'm reading the story, and the fact that they had to update the story after publication to go update, Hugh actually just finished another round. Like, that was amazing. They just published the story, and within hours they had to go update. Hugh actually teed off this morning as we're writing and played another round. We have to add another one to that. That was the funniest part of that story. But like, it's a funny, like, I could get how people go, who cares? I get it. It's golf. I get it. But it is a little bit of an issue right now. It is.
It's like you said, if you're winning, it's a non-issue. If you're not, everything you do is an issue when you're losing.
Yeah.
Everything. I don't know much about it, so I won't comment on it.
Yeah.
But that, everything, you're under the microscope when you're losing. There's just no way around that.
That's true.
Sorry. Barnerbeck, do you think this team will be more disciplined than last year? Examples like false starts, special teams issues, things of that nature. Justin? I have no evidence that it will be right now.
Well, I was doing a quick look. Let's see. So Auburn was 57th in the country in penalties last year. They averaged 49 yards a game in penalties. Let's see, penalties per game. Where are they at? They were 66th in penalties per game at 6. So middle of the pack nationally in penalties. So obviously not good. That's not going to get it done. You can't be middle of the pack nationally. I mean, but yeah, I think your answer's right. I don't know. Where would you point to that would say they'd be more disciplined? We know there were issues on a few special teams, right? We had that little run of holdings on kickoff returns. It didn't happen all year, but there was a stretch there where it happened multiple times to the point where it was like it became an issue. Chad Lunsford's in now. He's a really good coach. But again, some of those special teams penalties, they didn't happen all year. They sort of happened in a string of time that it amplified it. But yeah, I don't know. Where would you point to make you feel better or worse about the discipline, less penalties per game?
I don't think penalties were that big of a deal besides special teams. I mean, pass protection was a big problem.
Yep.
And I think it was more of a communication thing between quarterback and play caller. And, hey, this is a play, quarterback, where we want you to make the call. Hey, Connor, he needs to make the call here. Or, hey, we're just going to make the call. And then they would have something where they needed to check it and they couldn't check it. And they've got to figure that process out, because it's not I mean, I've watched, like I said, every snap up to the Kentucky game so far. It's not Isaiah Miller's just getting completely killed by the edge rusher, or it was Percy Lewis at times. He was getting beat, but they replaced him for that reason. and it got better when they did that. But it was more like missed assignments and lack of fundamentals and lack of communication or whatever that is. But it wasn't man on man. We're just getting killed, right? I
Yeah,
didn't
and
see
you're
that
kind of going down more the line of sort of execution versus
execution. Yeah,
which versus discipline, which kind of is the same thing. I mean,
sure.
it sort of is the same thing. So it would be you. I think when people hear discipline, or when I heard it, I thought penalties. I thought stupid penalties, unforced errors, executions. Like
I didn't think they
executions
were.
more game week preparation to build up to actually executing. So slight difference, I guess there.
I
But
didn't think they were terrible in penalties. I
yeah,
have
yeah. I mean, the stats show them middle of the pack. That's not terrible. Obviously, not great, but not terrible. I don't. Do you remember a game that they lost because of a rash of penalties?
mm-mm.
Probably point to turnovers and
No. I
just
mean,
lack of execution more than anything.
the special teams penalties stand out a lot because it put the offense in terrible spots a lot of times.
There
And
were
the
a few, yeah,
offense, they didn't need to be. They need all the help they could get. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
now on the defensive side, there's less fundamental issues, but there was a lot of coverage lapses. When they would go 3-man fronts and they'd only rush 3, that means they got 8 in the field. You should have everything covered. Well, there were several times when they didn't. And you can point back to the Arkansas game when Arkansas threw that deep bomb to Isaiah Satania for a touchdown. Somebody's supposed to be in that third. They have 8 guys. They rushed 3. So stuff like that, which is advanced stuff that the average fan wouldn't watch. I wouldn't see unless I've rewatched the game 10 times, like I have. Those are the things that are the reasons when people ask us, why does Auburn have so much trouble on 3rd and longs? That's why they had issues like that. Why does Peyton Thorne get sacked all the time? Well, they had miscommunication problems. They didn't have the right, pass protection scheme called, or they didn't check out of the right thing, or they didn't check into the right thing.
Yeah, it was a weird year. I was looking at opponent long scrimmage plays. Auburn finished 8th in the country in terms of 10-plus yard plays given up. Only 7 teams gave up less 10-plus yard plays. So they were 8th. And then, of course, we know some of the offensive stats in terms of yards per game, in terms of explosive plays. Auburn was, top 20% in the country, probably top 20, 25-ish in some of those yards per plays, some of those explosive play categories. They were up there. So it's kind of, again, it was such a weird year where you look at it and you go, okay, offensively, they produced a pretty fair amount of explosive plays. Defensively, they were one of the better teams in the country at not giving up explosive plays, and they went 5-7.
Yeah.
Herb says, what does it take for Taha to be a top 5 all-time Auburn basketball player? That's a tough one because I just feel like he won't stay past next year. So can a guy do it in 2 years? Maybe. Take Auburn back to the Final Four, and you're part of 2 Final Fours. Obviously, nobody at Auburn. I mean, Auburn's only been to 2 Final Fours, and certainly not one player has been to 2. So if you were to get Auburn back to the Final Four, that'd get you there for sure. If you're the only player in the history of Auburn basketball that's played in 2 Final Fours, and you were a main reason why, that would be one. Short of that, you got to probably be first team All-American this year because you've had some of those. I mean, you've had Janai, Walker, Jabari. You've had some of those, so you got to be on their level there. I think you'd have to get first team All-American honors. Maybe lead the league in scoring. That'd be a big one. But I don't know. I mean, there's some guys that played. I mean, Walker, obviously Jabari played 1. Walker played 1, but they're kind of considered Auburn greats. But there's some guys that have played a lot of years. But yeah, I'd say maybe first team All-American probably would get you there. Potentially leading the league in scoring potentially would get you there where you look at him and go, what he accomplished in 2 years is you could make a case. You just wouldn't have the longevity of his career. That would be playing against him against some other guys. But like I said, Jabari played 1 year. Walker played 1 year. They'd be in the discussion. So let's just see how this year plays out. But pound for pound. I thought last year, I said it last year, pound for pound, I think he's the best player that's come through under the Bruce Pearl era. Pound for pound. Meaning, I thought Jabari was fantastic, but there were some things Jabari wasn't great at. He wasn't great at putting the ball on the court. He get him, spot him up at three, spot him up on the elbow. You know, he was a great defender, could rebound. But if Jabari ever had to drive, he struggled some. He's better now in the NBA, but you know, when he would try to put the ball on the court, he's so tall. It was a little bit of an issue.
That's the unfortunate thing about taking a guy like Jabari. You get 1 year of him, you get the first year,
yeah,
at that speed of basketball. It's great. I mean, he did great things, but man, you know, it's like, all right, well, we got you ready for the pros.
But man, he led you to a freaking regular season title.
No, he did good things. I'm not taking that away. It's just, it's hard to win championships with guys like that, in my opinion.
It's tough, one and done. It's gone away especially with the transfer portal. They're very. That's where people were criticizing Cal for a while because that whole one and done thing just sort of shifted a little bit, and it's hard to do that now. It's much Auburn in the last few years. Bruce talked about it publicly 3 years ago. Hey, this is changing. Experience matters. And so you saw them invest and say, we need to bring Dylan back, bring Chris Moore back, bring Janai back. We want all these guys back. Experience matters. Portal guys that have played a bunch of college basketball matter. And so, yeah, but pound for pound, I think Tahad is going to be up there after this 2 years. When you talk about greatest Auburn basketball players, he could be in the discussion. Where do you rank him? I don't know. We'd have to get really nuanced and start actually listing guys out. Where do you rank him? But he'd be on the list. If you just tossed a bunch of names on the wall and said, we're going to pick 5 from this group of names, he'd be in. He absolutely can be in that group of names.
Just the fact that he's returned, he's going to get a whole nother season under his belt.
And he's going to be the man. He's going to be the leader. He's going to be the quarterback.
Exactly.
I mean, he is going to make this team go. He's pretty much going to have free reign to do whatever he wants. Drive, shoot. You will really never hear much from Bruce Pearl or that staff towards Tahad Pettiford on you should or shouldn't do this thing on offense, unless he's just literally not running the offense. But outside of that, if he wants to drive, be aggressive, if he wants to pull up and shoot, that dude's got the green light to infinity.
Yeah, for sure.
What's Ant's question?
Yeah, Robinson. How many wins or what big wins will it take to get a top 5 class? Do you feel like top 5 is unobtainable for this particular cycle? And you don't follow it as close as we do, but
I don't. That would be.
I think it's unattainable.
I don't see how you get there. There's too many. Go look at the recruiting rankings and look at the elite level. That's like whether it's Bama, Georgia, Oregon, Texas A&M. I mean, the A&M, Texas, Ohio State, Michigan. Dude, there are some programs that just are. Auburn is just not on that level in terms of winning lately.
Right.
In terms of the size of the school, the size of the fan base, they're just not. It's just going to be hard right now to break into that level, and it'll fluctuate. It's still early. Like Notre Dame's up there, Georgia, but you're just going to see the same schools for the most part. Could Auburn land a top 5 class in general? Yeah, but like as they stand now, I don't know how you get in there.
The fact that USC has 30 commitments.
That's nuts, by the way. What? They already have 30?
They have 30. Now, they do lead the country in decommitments in the last 2 years. So,
what's average rating? Where's Auburn average rating right now? They only have 5 now. Well, probably not great either because they lost their best players recently. I mean,
Zach, you'll have to scroll. You're going to find Auburn on that.
Get the scrolling. Zach said, get the scrolling. What is that? We're 12th and what?
87-22 is the average. So technically,
the average score. Yeah,
that's the average rating, average star rating. So that's a 3-star average right now.
So that's actually way higher than I thought they'd be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the 3 stars you're getting are higher rated 3 stars. Everybody goes by the stars. I like the rating. Like, what's the guy's rating? If he's a 90 rating, it means he's on the low end of the 4-star. If he's a 96, he's on the high end of the 4-star. To me, that gives you a better range of what you're looking at.
So But the other reason this is not a great indicator for Auburn is Auburn only has what, 5?
Yeah, 5.
So
Right.
that's
Well,
not fair either. I can
it's
I can have
counting
a
5.
pretty
I
I
don't
can
think
have a
it's
pretty
counting.
I can have a pretty decent average with 5. It's a lot harder to have a good average with 25. So, like, if Auburn can maintain that average over the next 10 guys, 15 guys, yeah, but only having 5 is kind of.
And it's not counting Nico Heppy yet because he's technically unrated.
He'll be. I mean, he won't be anything more than a 3-star. I don't really
Well,
see how you can make.
his initial rating, and he's got one for 24/7 ESPN. It comes in with an 87, so he's mid range to high, mid to high 3-star initial.
Probably it's probably more. You can't really do much more than that. He
Well,
hasn't played enough football. I mean,
hadn't
I
played
don't
it
really.
down. Has not
Yeah,
played it down yet. So
yeah.
what do you? They're going straight off of the guy's 6'7", 350, and he's got mobility.
Which you just can't do. We can't be, are we going to see a lot more yes/no reads or 50-50 balls for Cam Coleman this year?
I don't see how not. Somebody asked me what if I were the offensive coordinator. Thank God I'm not for Auburn. What would my first 2 drives look like from a play calling standpoint against Baylor? If with what I have at receiver, if Baylor is brave enough to go one-on-one coverage without safety help on a guy like Cam Coleman or a guy like Eric Singleton or even Malcolm Simmons, I'm going right at it on first down of the first play of the game until they go, it's not worth it not to have 2 safeties on the field. And then we start running the football. This is what you're supposed to have when you have guys like Cam Coleman. It's a threat. Whether or not it works, it's a threat. And you have to add fuel to that fire by taking
make it sound so easy, Cole. Just make it sound so easy.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm not the offensive coordinator, and there's a reason for that. But that's the whole point of getting guys like that, is it not?
I mean, yeah, I would assume.
Talking to our buddy Edward, who calls in on the Collins show, Edward from Selma, made a great point to me. He said, if you're the defensive coordinator of the opposing team, and this is no shot at Jeremiah Cobb or Damari Austin, when you hand it off to them sometimes, not every time, but sometimes, depending on the defensive look, the coordinator on the other side is going, yes, thank God. That's a victory. We'll take that all day. Please don't take shots at number 8. I don't want you to test my corner. Please. So I thought that was a good point. But that's the reason you have guys like that and multiple, not just Cam Coleman. You got guys that can hurt you in man coverage. If you dare to do it, you better make them pay. I thought Auburn pulled back on that a little too much sometimes last year, but there's so much going on.
Is that right? James says we are Auburn is 16th in recruiting in the SEC. I saw the thing they put out a couple of days ago, and Vanderbilt was still last. Is that flipped?
We just looked at it. It was 12th, I think.
Overall?
In the SEC. I think that's what it was. Hang on. Auburn is 16th.
Is that so? Just because you cover it, is 16th in the SEC? Is that bad?
It's last.
Oh, okay, so that's bad. Got
it. Yeah, no, it was with the loss of Devin Carter and Shadarius Tootle, it dropped that far.
Listen,
Auburn also has the least amount of
room. It's just we're setting it up for listen, Cole. They've got everybody right where they want them. It's just nothing but up from here. It's nothing but up. Think about it that way. It can only, well, I shouldn't say this. I feel like it can only get better. Can't get worse than 16th.
Well, whenever this commit from whatever Hayes is teasing happens, Auburn will be – right now Auburn's got the least amount of commits in the SEC. They have 6. Everybody else has more than that. So they're about to have at least 7 based on that tweet. That'll move up. It'll change. I mean, it can change in a hurry this time of year, especially when you have that little amount. So
they'll make a run. What kind of run? We don't know. Carson, what do y'all believe is our best chance to win a big game this year? Bama, Georgia, A&M. Would you? Those are three big ones. See, I guess what would you constitute a big game? Bama, Georgia, we get because those are national title contenders. A&M should be pretty good. Like winning at Baylor is not the same as winning one of the three games he mentioned. That's not on the same level. So I mean, I kind of like the three he mentioned. That's probably the biggest three in terms of team talent significance. So of those three, well, you'd love to pick a game at home, but that's Bama, Georgia. Marcel Reed is scary.
I'm looking more. I'm looking more at the timing of these games.
That's what I was about to look at. When's the?
I like for that. I like the Bama game.
Yeah.
I don't like the time. I don't like the timing of the A&M game at all. I think Auburn's still going to be working through a few things at that time.
Well, yeah, the Bama. I could probably go with you on Bama, especially if Auburn can get this thing humming. You know, they got a shot. I mean, if you look at this schedule, if you can get through Baylor, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, if you could win, I think just win one of Baylor, OU, A&M. I think just try to win one. Honestly, I think if you're 3-2 and you're 1-2 with those three road games, I'm not. We'll see how they go, but that's not. That's just. That wouldn't be terrible to me because you've got an opportunity to really get hot. You've got an opportunity to host Missouri, go to Arkansas, host Kentucky, go to Vanderbilt, play Mercer. Man, you got 5 games right there that if you're a good team and you've got this thing humming a little bit, even if you sputtered on the road at A&M or Oklahoma, those are winnable games. You could go 1, 2, 3, 4. You could go 5 straight games with a win, even if you lost to Georgia heading into the Iron Bowl. You could. There's real opportunity there to have momentum towards the end of the year because nobody on that schedule from mid-October on is more talented than you are. And you got some home games mixed in there too. So I'd probably go in there with Alabama as being the best chance of those.
I'm Justin. I don't know if you caught these, but I'm running through the on paper matchups for everybody on Auburn's schedule. Right now, I'm on Oklahoma. I put that one out this morning. Is it at all surprising to you that Oklahoma's defense is like the star rating average for their projected starters is way above Auburn's? I just didn't see that exactly being the case, but they are littered with 4 stars on that side of the ball.
So it could be a pretty good defensive unit.
So Auburn's, just going down the list: Kieran Crawford, Bobby Travis, Malik Blockton, Keldrick Falk. You know who the starters are projected to be, and I do the star rating. Those guys from high school. I don't do the transfer portal rating because I want to know the initial star rating before the rankers got a second chance at them after seeing them on the field. Let's go with the initial. Auburn's average on defense is an 89.54, which is very, very low 4-star average, like right over the threshold. Oklahoma's defense is a 92.02 4-star average. That's pretty strong. I mean, really strong. Marvin Jones, 5-star. Peyton Bowen, 5-star. There's only 1, 2, 3 stars on their entire starting defense. That's it. Does that surprise you at all?
I don't think so.
Knowing that, what would you guess Auburn's star rating average is on offense?
On offense?
Do you think it's a 4-star average?
We're talking high school?
This is what they were ranked in high school, yes, as recruits. Keep in mind, Eric Singleton was a 3-star,
Well,
85.
the average, it's possible because Arnold was a 5, Cam was a 5, Lou was probably a 4. But you got some 5s and a couple 4s, so it easily could bring the average to a 4 just having some 5 stars.
89.76. So again,
4.
like right over the threshold, not a
Yeah.
high 4. Oklahoma's 85.39, so actually low end of 3-star range. John Mateer coming out of high school was an 81.3, barely ranked. He was almost not ranked. They got a receiver who was unranked that came from FCS. I think, Zach, you probably know who he is. Giovanni Gibson. Fabici Nwewu, their right guard, was an unranked guy. Their entire offensive line, besides one guy, was all 3-stars and low 3-stars at that. Jake Taylor, their right tackle, was a really high 4-star, top 100 player. So walking through those star averages, man, it puts it in perspective to me where you're at if you're Auburn. And pretty much still, even though we think the roster's better, middle of the pack, but the higher end of middle of the pack, if that makes sense, as far as talent goes. So those have been interesting.
Toss in Anthony's question. Who do you want to see as a fun one? Who do you want to see Auburn? Who do you want to see pick for SEC Media Days for Auburn?
We talked about that when you were off camera last week.
Oh, do we?
On the last show. Give us your picks, Justin. Who would be your 3?
Who do I want to see?
I'll tell you who I picked.
I guess Jackson Arnold, Keldrick Falk, and I think they do 3. I mean, Jeremiah Wright wouldn't be bad. This dude's been there for a long time, and I think he's a pretty good quote. Connor Lou doesn't say much, so Jeremiah Wright's been there a while. I think he's a good representative. So maybe Arnold, Wright, and Falk.
Yeah, I thought Arnold too, but Falk was one. I picked Wright, I think, and then I think I picked Connor Lou. Those are my 3. If they picked a receiver, who do you think it would be?
It'd be Cam.
Eric Singleton.
If they picked one, I don't think any of them. No, because because Eric just got there. Like I don't think he should represent the team. Like he just got there. I would go. I mean, Jackson did too. I guess that's true. But he's your quarterback. That sort of trumps things. You got to put your quarterback out there. Come on.
Yeah, I think they will. Did Peyton go last year? I think he did. I can't remember. I can't remember.
I hate media days.
It was definitely Keldrick, and he was a sophomore. So they'll take a sophomore.
Media days is dumb.
Here, there's a couple more on the board. You want to hit those real quick?
Yeah.
Let's hit those real quick. Would you like to give a score prediction for the Baylor game?
No.
Okay.
Way too early.
Sorry, WD 1999. You're SOL. Good question. We can't. No, I'm just kidding. We'll answer. I'll go for it. I know you want to. You're just lying to yourself. You want to do it. I think Auburn wins 28-21. 28-21.
I think if you hold them to 21, you got a great shot. That's for sure. Definitely think that. If you held them to 21, I think you'd have a great shot.
I'm thinking on average for what Auburn held teams to a year ago, I think they averaged close to 21 or might have been under that.
That 20 number, I noted it last year in a few different game notes.
I remember that.
Heading in. I don't know I can't remember what it is, but it was under Hugh Freeze. It was like hit 20. It was like give up 20, lose. Period, lose. Every game that they've won, that he's won at Auburn, they haven't won a game where they've outscored. So like if they give up 20, they lose. They've lost under Hugh Freeze straight up. So it was very straightforward.
Let's see. Ranch or blue cheese?
Ranch.
Elberg wants to know ranch or blue cheese.
Ranch. I do blue cheese on sometimes if I do like a Cobb salad or something, but probably more times than not ranch.
How about this? Yes. I like them both. Give me both.
Romulus. Toss his question there.
Romulus.
1246.
Why is ever to conquer? Yeah.
Yeah. They're not tapped out. So this is when I talk about recruiting apparatus behind the scenes, this is what I'm talking about. No, not tapped out. I'm not going to go into details because it's just not. I'm just not. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to. I'm just not going to go into super specific details. There just been some issues in terms of overall operation that have set them back. Some of it Hugh Freeze is a part of in terms of some tension, but I think things can be turned around. So not tapped out. That goes back to the question about is Auburn broke? No. They're not broke. No, they're not broke.
What? Okay. Freezing 10. Justin wants to know, what is the bigger game to win this season? Is it Alabama or is it Georgia? By beating either one of those, do you think that helps win a few kids over? There's the recruiting part. He says, I think beating Georgia would be the bigger win. We've had them beat several times and couldn't close. Also, that game being at night helps.
Oh, boy. You can't go wrong, whatever your answer is, because, I mean,
I go back to timing. Would you rather have that win in the middle of the season against Georgia or finish with the win against Bama? And I'm always going to go with that.
That's an impossible question because you've lost to Alabama 5 years in a row. You didn't even have that stretch. Even in the middle of Saban, you popped up and beat them in 10. You popped up and beat them in 13. You popped up and beat them in 17. You beat them in 19. Even with Saban, it never went more than, 11, 12. You beat them in 14, 15, 16. It never went more than 3. Well, I guess at the very end, right? Saban was there 20, 21, 22, 23, right? So literally the very end of Saban's career there was the longest streak he had against Auburn, which was 4. Auburn had him beaten 21, had him beaten 23. That's what's crazy, dude. Auburn had Bama beat in 21 and 23. Auburn literally could have wins over Alabama and Jordan-Hare in 17, 19, 21, and 23. And you'd have to go back to 15. You'd have to go back a decade if they would have closed the deal on those 2 games. But they didn't. They lost them. So on one hand, you don't want to lose to Alabama 6 times in a row. But at the same time, Georgia's just absolutely owned you for 15 years. So at some point, get over that hump. I mean, when was their last win over Georgia? 17? And then before that, 13 and 10. Like it's been – so you can't – I don't even – I feel like it's personal preference. Do you want to get over the hump against Georgia and feel the win against Georgia? Or do you want to make sure Alabama doesn't beat you 6 times in a row? I don't take your pick. Those are they'd be monster either way.
Give me the win over Bama. Give me that one. I don't have to think of that. I don't have to think that hard about it.
Yeah, the only you could get really technical and go, well, if you beat Georgia, I talked about what that schedule looks like mid-October on. You beat Georgia, there's not a team until Alabama that would have a better roster than you. Missouri, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Mercer. You beat Georgia. If you're good enough to do that, you're good enough to win the next 5 and take a 6-game winning streak. And you'd have 8 wins going into the Iron Bowl. So maybe that plays into it. If you beat Georgia, you could really take some momentum into a manageable part of your schedule. But
I'm probably thinking about it from a different angle than you, Justin. But I'm thinking if you're able to beat Alabama on the last game of your schedule, it it doesn't mean that everything went well. It just seems like there's a higher probability that your record to that point was probably a little better. How many 4-6 Auburn or whatever 4-6 Auburn teams have beaten Alabama? Not many. It's usually a good Auburn team. It takes a good Auburn team to beat Alabama.
yeah, that question probably is very dependent. What if Auburn loses to Baylor, OU, and Texas A&M? Now, how big is that Georgia game? So or what if they go 4-1? What if they go? What if they beat Baylor
If
and
Auburn loses those three,
somehow upset OU, lose to A&M? What if they're 4-1? How big is that Georgia game? Now
huge,
Auburn's
huge.
top 15
I
playing
take
Georgia.
nothing. I take nothing away from the Georgia game.
Yeah. It that's a monster either way where it falls on that schedule. So maybe Georgia. Maybe I go Georgia.
Let's end it on this. This looks like I don't know, Justin. Maybe looks like a good question. It's from Matty Dubs. If you want to put that up, Zach, at 12:48. Who's the hardest worker, elite work ethic on Auburn's football team right now? I mean, to me, the best way to answer this question is when I'm sitting there at the complex, which I did a lot this summer. Who are the guys I see the most? I don't know how hard everybody's working. I just know who I see the most. Who's at the facility getting work in?
Is he thinking or did he freeze? What do you think? Drop a comment in the chat. Did Cole freeze or is he just thinking really hard right now?
I feel like
There he is. There he is. You
like
froze, by the way, so you have to start your whole answer over.
Oh no, I feel like my internet goes out. It's like it's watching me, and they go, I think he's about to make a good point, and out right now.
Or your internet's like he's about to make a bad point. Let's stop him before he gets going.
Hey, the reason it took me a minute to get here today is because cable companies here putting fiber down in my yard today.
Nice.
And I'm not counting on it because I'm not going to count on it, but we're going to try it and see if that fixes things. But no, the guys I see the most, I see Keldrick Falk every time I'm there. I see Keyron Crawford must sleep there. Same for Jeremiah Wright. I don't think they go anywhere else. They just sleep in the facility. They may like kick back in a chair in there, and they're like, all right, time for a workout. And then they go get the workout, get back in the chair, and time for another workout. Like they're always there. Damari Alston, all the time. I see Sam Turner a lot. He's the freshman I see the most up there, easily. Who else? Connor Lou's always walking around in there. Who do you see when you're up there, Justin? Do you ever see guys walking around?
I think you named some good ones. I think you named some.
And that's all I can tell you. I don't know enough about – I'm not at practice every day. I'm not watching them that closely. Just who I see at the times I go. And I go at different times of the day, so that means they're there a lot. Anything else you want to touch on before we're done, Justin?
No, be on the lookout. I did a one-on-one with Auburn associate basketball coach Stephen Pearl, hoping to get that out tomorrow, Friday. I think we're in good shape to put that on the YouTube channel early in the morning, and we'll make sure I'll get with Zach. We'll make sure maybe I don't know. I'll ask Zach. I don't know if we can put that on the pod. I don't know if we can transfer the audio to podcast form or not, but it'll for sure be on the YouTube channel, and I'll link that on the site first thing in the morning. So we'll have that available, which is really good. Talked a little bit about last year, talked about the portal, talked about the new team so far, talked about the schedule next year a little bit. And so I think that'll be really good for basketball people. And then I'm going to try to have a basketball insider here pretty soon. And then we'll media days is a few weeks away, but no, nothing else specific we need to hit on unless there's any more questions. I'm good. What you got? So they must be doing the internet right now. They're cutting Cole's internet off as we speak. Okay, Zach says it'll be on podcast as well. So if you're part of the Auburn Live podcast, that interview in audio form, which is about 15 minutes. It's a really easy, quick listen. So it'll be on that.
I have to share this before we go. On the board, Ford Tough is the guy's username. He just dropped a post. I guess he's watching the show, maybe. He said, this is great. He said, I hope when Jackson Arnold throws a fade route to Cam Coleman midway through the fourth quarter of the Baylor game to put the game away, 41-20, we all see Hugh Freeze celebrate like this. Give the golf swing as a celebration.
Be the ultimate troll. Remember how Gus used to do the fist pump, the boom when he'd score a touchdown?
That's so good.
It would be the absolute ultimate troll if Hugh Freeze, after touchdowns, took a golf swing.
And then Aces Fool put the gif of George Bush doing that commercial where he says, now watch this drive.
Dude, that is still I still see that to this day and can't believe it's real. That is a historic all-time moment where he is talking about what? Nuclear war. He's talking about war, and he's like, and then he pauses and goes, now watch this golf swing. You're like, what?
That falls in line with some of the greatest gifts that someone can use.
It's a great one. That's Hugh. That's Hugh. He'd be like, he's gonna talk about offensive execution, and he's gonna go, now watch this golf swing.
Oh, that'd be funny. The other one I love is Tommy Tuberville with the bag of with the chips going like this.
Yeah. Back in the day when they used to do the golden flake.
Oh, that's funny. I love that. No offense to Philip Marshall, love Philip Marshall, but the gif of him standing by Brian Van Gorder.
That's a great one too.
For
anybody that knows Philip, that's a perfect response.
Fantastic. All right, we'll end it there, Justin. Make sure you join up on the corner so you can see funny stuff like that all day long. From sometimes guys are up at 1 a.m. It never ceases to amaze me. So join that. You can do it for $1, gets you in for a free trial or a $1 trial for a week. You can try it out. Rolls into an annual. So, that gets you in for football season. That gets you in for signing day. That gets you in for basketball season, all that. So come give us a try. Thanks for watching us today. We'll catch you next time. For Zach, Justin, or myself. See ya.